It only took one routine inspection, one puzzled engineer, and one hidden device to send shockwaves through Tesla's billion-dollar dream. What was once a symbol of futuristic innovation, the Cybertruck, suddenly turned into a full-blown national security concern. Because buried deep beneath the dashboard wasn't just a glitch or a quirky sensor, it was something far more disturbing. What they found was a silent surveillance module, undocumented, encrypted, and actively transmitting live data. Tesla called it cutting-edge technology. Whistleblowers called it espionage. And now, the world is left wondering, was this a rogue experiment gone off the rails, or the final unraveling of Tesla's high-stakes empire? Because what was discovered wasn't just illegal, it was terrifying. The storm began with a leak, just not the kind Tesla was prepared for, and definitely not one they could spin. Inside the Gigafactory in Austin, during a routine post-delivery Cybertruck inspection, an anonymous insider snapped a few photos. But what they captured wasn't a design flaw or software bug. It was hardware. Hidden beneath the dashboard, in a spot no regular customer would ever check, sat an unregistered surveillance module, one that didn't appear in any Cybertruck blueprint. The photos revealed exposed wiring and a suspicious sensor grid. That image quietly left the factory, slipped into the hands of someone with nothing left to lose. At first, the implications weren't fully understood, but inside Tesla, panic started to build. As the photos began circulating among a small group of journalists, engineers inside the Gigafactory scrambled to verify what they were seeing. They searched internal schematics, procurement logs, and supplier records, only to find that the module wasn't listed anywhere. One Tesla engineer, who remains anonymous, refused to approve the vehicle for delivery. That decision triggered an emergency halt in production and a so-called Tier 3 hardware escalation, Tesla's internal code for a top-level technical crisis. And with no one able to explain how the module ended up in the Cybertruck, things got very serious, very fast. That's when it went all the way to the top. Elon Musk himself was alerted. And, according to leaked Slack messages confirmed by several sources, he didn't wait for legal teams or internal reviews. Musk immediately ordered a full lockdown on every Cybertruck diagnostic file under review, and personally authorized a freeze on firmware access logs. Tesla's cybersecurity team, typically focused on monitoring server infrastructure, was reassigned to dig through system logs and supplier communications. It was clear the company had entered full-blown damage control, but it was too late. The leak had already escaped the factory walls. While Tesla tried to contain the fallout, someone outside the company was already fanning the flames. A former Tesla employee, whose identity remains under intense scrutiny, handed the leaked photos to a well-known investigative journalist. This journalist, who had previously exposed privacy violations in smart home technology, published the story on Substack under the headline, "You're not driving the Cybertruck, it's driving you." The post went viral in under 2 hours. Reddit exploded with threads analyzing every inch of the leaked images. Twitter was flooded with side-by-side comparisons between known Tesla sensors and the mystery device. The hashtag number sign CybertruckGate began trending worldwide. But what truly ignited the firestorm wasn't just the photos, it was what followed. Tech experts started analyzing what the mystery module could actually do. Tesla tried to respond with vague statements and strategic blame shifting, hoping the scandal would fade. But then came the digital equivalent of a bombshell. An anonymous ProtonMail account sent a flood of over 15,000 internal Tesla emails to major media outlets. These emails weren't fake, they were verified, and they told a damning story. Threads between engineers, executives, and even Musk himself revealed that Tesla had been discussing these hidden modules since 2022. This wasn't an accident. It was a planned, classified internal operation. But the most disturbing part? The emails exposed far more than secrecy. They exposed intent. One line, in particular, chilled every legal analyst who saw it. A senior software architect had written, "If the feds ever find this firmware, we're cooked." It wasn't a bug report. It was a confession. That line was pulled straight from a Tesla inbox and plastered across global headlines. This was no longer about rogue parts or engineering mistakes. It was about a coordinated internal effort to hide something they all knew could destroy the company if exposed. The deeper journalists dug, the more they uncovered cracks in Tesla's so-called culture of innovation. Multiple engineers had raised concerns internally. Some went further. One engineer, who left the company in 2023, wrote in their resignation that continuing the project meant endorsing gross violations of user consent and data autonomy. That resignation email, tied to a thread labeled Falcon Eye Dev Team, Final Update, painted a grim picture of internal pressure, silencing, and a total disregard for ethical boundaries. The resignation wasn't met with concern. It was mocked. A senior VP responded with a single emoji: salt. That petty reply sparked widespread outrage across social platforms. But even that drama paled in comparison to what the codenames actually meant. According to the email trail, Falcon Eye referred to a remote data scanner capable of tracking vehicle behavior, microphone audio, and even biometric identifiers. Another codename, ZeroSync, referred to firmware patches designed to erase or fake log trails during remote updates. What Tesla called innovation, others now call surveillance. And the more that surfaces, the harder it becomes to believe this was ever just a technical error. For many, it's starting to look like the Cybertruck wasn't built just to drive the future. It was built to watch it. These weren't just experimental concepts or side projects. The surveillance systems were real, active, and fully integrated into Cybertruck units marked for consumer delivery. Internal emails even outlined update rollout schedules tied to specific production batches, suggesting that thousands of Cybertrucks may have already been shipped with the spyware fully operational. And through every technical document and leak, one name kept surfacing, with a disturbing level of arrogance: Elon Musk. His personal replies, often short and laced with sarcasm, appeared throughout the email chains like careless breadcrumbs. In one now infamous exchange, when an engineer raised concerns that regulators might eventually discover the hidden module, Musk allegedly responded, "Don't worry, nobody checks under the dashboard." That one sentence went viral almost instantly. It showed up on protest signs, turned into a TikTok soundbite, and was even featured in a Saturday Night Live cold open. What Musk probably meant as a flippant joke became the defining quote of Tesla's biggest public crisis. But this wasn't just a PR nightmare. It quickly became a legal one. Within 48 hours of the leak, federal agencies pounced. The Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice, and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration each launched their own investigations. These weren't routine inspections. It was a full-force, multi-agency federal assault on Tesla's operations. The agencies publicly announced probes into potential consumer rights violations, data manipulation, and even wire fraud, specifically tied to the Cybertruck's hidden firmware and data transmission systems. For the first time, Tesla wasn't just in legal trouble. It had become a national security concern. As headlines intensified, government officials began asking tougher questions, especially about where these Cybertrucks were being used. Homeland Security issued an internal alert, placing Tesla on the National Infrastructure Sensitivity List. The concern? Tesla vehicles had already made their way into municipal fleets, law enforcement departments, and contracts with military-adjacent transportation providers. Some Cybertrucks had even been tested in border patrol zones and utility corridors tied to defense infrastructure. The implications were staggering. Had these vehicles been quietly collecting sensitive operational data without anyone's knowledge or consent? Homeland Security classified the risk level as red. Tesla was immediately forced to suspend ongoing fleet negotiations with both state and federal agencies. But quiet investigations behind closed doors weren't enough for Washington. Lawmakers wanted answers, on the record and in public view. Tesla's high-powered lobbying team scrambled, sending legal threats and urgent memos in an attempt to delay the inevitable. It didn't work. Congress demanded Elon Musk testify in person before the Commerce Committee to answer questions about the growing trove of evidence, firmware anomalies, and the corporate culture that had allowed it all to go unchecked. Musk's legal team tried to propose a written statement instead, but the offer was quickly dismissed. The optics were already disastrous. Lawmakers and the public wanted a live reckoning with Silicon Valley's most unpredictable CEO. As subpoenas rolled out, political figures began speaking out directly. Senator Elizabeth Warren appeared on national television and didn't mince words. Elon Musk is running an unchecked surveillance empire under the guise of innovation. Her statement spread like wildfire, echoed by bipartisan support. Even Musk's usual defenders went silent. Analysts started sounding the alarm about a full-scale trust collapse, where customers, regulators, and investors might all abandon the company simultaneously. And then, the final blow came from the highest level, a direct statement from the White House. Any compromise of consumer privacy, intentional or not, will be met with legal consequence. But legal trouble was only the beginning. What followed threatened Tesla's very existence. Eventually, Elon Musk broke his silence and immediately made things worse. He tweeted, "It's just a truck, calm down." Those 5 words instantly ignited a public firestorm. Critics called it one of the most tone-deaf corporate responses in recent memory. Musk's tweet didn't just miss the point. It confirmed what many feared, that he didn't fully understand or care about the scope of the problem. The backlash was immediate. Public trust, already hanging by a thread, completely unraveled. But instead of backing off, Musk leaned in. He launched into a rage-filled Twitter thread, blaming the entire leak on rogue employees and claiming it was part of a leftist sabotage plot. He painted himself as the victim of a deep state attack and even posted what he claimed was an internal Slack message proving his innocence. But journalists quickly analyzed the image and discovered altered timestamps and inconsistent metadata. The message was fake. The CEO of Tesla had just shared doctored evidence in an attempt to shift blame. It was a stunning development, not just for legal investigators, but for Tesla's already shaky reputation. Musk's credibility took a major hit, and the company's brand was further tarnished. As the chaos unfolded, internal cracks began to show. Former Tesla co-founder Martin Eberhard broke his long silence and delivered a powerful public statement. Tesla's downfall was always inevitable because it was built around one fatal flaw. Everything revolved around Elon. That quote struck a nerve and quickly went viral. Tesla is no longer a tech company, he continued. It's a reflection of one man's unchecked impulses. The message resonated. It shattered the myth of relentless innovation and revealed a cult-like echo chamber where dissent was ignored and accountability didn't exist. Investors noticed. Shareholder forums lit up. Earnings calls were flooded with one overwhelming demand: replace Musk before it's too late. The writing was on the wall. Tesla wasn't just facing a scandal, it was staring down a reckoning. While the public mocked Elon Musk's tweets, the legal world wasn't laughing, and they moved fast. In just 2 weeks, Tesla was hit with 4 separate class action lawsuits. Customers accused the company of deception. Privacy advocates claimed Tesla had been recording users without consent. And investors began demanding answers, questioning whether they'd been misled about the true nature of the Cybertruck's tech systems. Then came the knockout blow. Daniel Kraus, a former lead on Tesla's firmware team, went public in a stunning interview on 60 Minutes. In what quickly became a bombshell moment, he revealed that internal reports proving the Cybertrucks were collecting off-grid movement data and routing it to servers overseas had been deliberately buried. There was no regulatory disclosure, no transparency, just data quietly siphoned without user consent. But Kraus's revelation wasn't the end. It was the spark that set off something much bigger. Tesla's legal team rushed to contain the fallout, issuing blanket denials and corporate statements. But each attempt at damage control was met with another leaked document, another court filing, another reason to believe the company was hiding something. Then the SEC stepped in, launching a formal investigation into whether Tesla had knowingly misled investors about the software's capabilities. Suddenly, the issue wasn't just about privacy or ethics, it was about fraud. and the financial world responded instantly. Tesla's stock price nosedived, dropping 18% in just 1 week. Over $100 billion in market value was wiped out, sending a shockwave through Wall Street. Institutional investors began offloading shares at a rapid pace, triggering a massive sell-off. This wasn't a market correction. It was an exodus. No amount of memes, Musk tweets, or Cybertruck superfans could stop the bleeding. And that was just the beginning. Tesla's deep corporate alliances, relationships that had helped it rise to the top, started to fracture. Apple and Amazon, both of which had been quietly developing long-term AI and EV integration projects with Tesla, pulled the plug. These weren't PR moves. These were defensive maneuvers. Internal audits were launched at both companies, driven by a simple, urgent question. Were they now guilty by association? Tesla had crossed into reputational freefall, and no serious tech giant wanted to go down with it. The silence from Cupertino and Seattle was deafening. As the tech world distanced itself, Tesla's customers followed suit, louder and angrier. Cybertruck deliveries were halted indefinitely. Tesla showrooms turned into chaos as refund demands poured in by the hundreds. Some buyers returned their trucks within days, citing hidden surveillance systems and serious privacy violations. For a brand built on trust and high-tech appeal, this felt like betrayal in its most personal form. People felt spied on, in their driveways, on their commutes, inside their own lives. And the crisis didn't stay confined to Tesla. Inside Musk's empire, the unraveling started to spread. SpaceX engineers, people normally focused on rockets and interplanetary missions, were suddenly reassigned to help stabilize Tesla's collapsing software infrastructure. But this wasn't cross-disciplinary innovation. It was damage control. Reports began surfacing of internal reshuffling across Musk's companies, with no strategy, no clarity, just panic. The myth of synergy between Musk's ventures was crumbling into a chaotic mess of mismanagement. Then came a striking signal that things were spiraling further out of control. Musk canceled his highly anticipated keynote at the World AI Conference in Shanghai. The reason? Emergency priorities. The message was loud and clear. He couldn't risk stepping on stage. Not right now. Not with everything falling apart. Behind the scenes, Tesla's boardroom was in crisis mode. A leaked internal poll showed that 63% of senior leadership wanted Musk removed, not given a smaller role, not coached through a PR makeover, but removed as CEO. While the board debated the man, the world turned on the machine. Public forums and social media filled with personal accounts from Tesla owners. Many said their vehicles were acting strangely, recording movements, triggering sensors, behaving like silent informants. One phrase started gaining traction: spyware on wheels. Tesla's Q4 forecast was slashed by 40%. The company's consumer trust index dropped to an all-time low. Then Washington stepped in. Lawmakers introduced a sweeping new bill, the Automotive Digital Transparency Act. Designed as a direct response to Tesla's surveillance scandal, the bill aimed to hold car makers accountable for undisclosed digital features. If it becomes law, it won't just change how Tesla operates. It could fundamentally reshape how every automaker builds and sells smart vehicles. Tesla, once a symbol of the future, was now the reason the future had to be regulated. Please subscribe to the Timefold channel and don't forget to like.